Good morning again. Now I know I said I was going to be in Yorkshire, but autumn is so lovely and it kind of doesn't really work in December and January, I don't think so well. So I thought I'd insert this one into my playlist, into my schedule. I'm in some local woodland again. I've been to my static caravan up in Norfolk again, so I've been staying here for the weekend with my daughter and my wife. They've just gone home, so I'm here to do a vlog now. This woodland is, if you saw the other one, I'll put a link to it somewhere, a card at the end probably, you'll know that my woodland photography is improving. This place here, this woodland is a little patch of woodland. It's quite big. It's probably a couple of miles square, I'd say. It's about 2 miles from where I was before. And I came here yesterday. I've been here several times. I've used the app What 3 Words, so when I've been walking with the dog, I've been sort of making notes of potentially good looking places, good looking trees, interesting places. You can never really tell until you arrive with the light and see what works, because most of the time I walk in at sort of later or late afternoon or late morning. But this has got a lot of potential. We've got a mixed woodland here. This is a beech tree, a lovely long path down to it. There's all sorts of rowans, some elder, some oaks, some chestnuts, just in this little bit of woodland here. And the first location I've marked on What 3 Words is just down here. So we'll go and have a look at that first. Might be some deer about. I'm sure I've seen something moving. This morning I came over yesterday just to recheck everything, make sure everything was looking good, and it was. So here I am. It was raining yesterday. It's been pouring down this morning. It's stopped now, which is fine. But what it does mean is the tree trunks are beautifully rich. They've got a lovely sheen to them. So I'm looking for a really good day. The colours have started to change a little bit more than they did last week. If you've been following Woodland Wednesdays, you know that I'm sort of tracking that back at home. So we'll have another one of those I'm going to photograph tomorrow. But certainly the colours have changed a little bit since the last time I came around this area. So I'm excited for the morning. Got my tripod, got a different vlogging camera because my other one, for some reason the battery's gone flat, even though it was on charge last night, so I don't know what I've done there, but I've luckily got the XT4 to vlog on, so we're going to use that. Albert's ready, I'm ready. Let's go and shoot some woodland. Enjoy the episode. So here's my first location. Look at this old tree, and he looks absolutely wonderful when it's been raining, because the bark looks lovely and dark and rich and shining. This is a chestnut tree, sweet chestnut, I think. This old bit here, and there's another new bit of growth that's come off the back, forming the canopy. And horse chestnut, or chestnuts, sweet chestnuts, horse chestnuts, beech trees tend to be the first to go colour up in the winter. We've got some of the, what's this one here? I think we've got a silver birch here. That looks like some kind of alder, I think, some holly. But what I'm trying to do here, we're going to shoot a portrait version of this, concentrating on this main tree. He'll be in focus, and what I'm going to do is throw out the background, but we've got some lovely colours in the back. And what's really good about this also, as well, apart from the fact that it's really nice because of the rain, is the fact that at the back there's a bank, so that's going to cut out all of the light. We shoot this low key. Now I've also shot a lot of woodland high key, and that works really, really well as well. But this particular scene, I think low key is going to suit it. So what I mean by that is dark and rich and saturated. Not even sure I'm going to use a polarizer. I think I will actually, because the polarizer will take the any reflection, any glare off the tree to make it even richer. Certainly with the leaves at the back there, we'll need to do that. So I'm going to find a composition, have a little look. I'll get the camera set up, then I'll show you what I'm looking at. This looks really good actually, really pleased with it. So we're going to put a polarizer on just to take the glare off the side if there is any. It's a beautiful, beautiful day. It's actually perfect conditions. It stopped raining. A bigger helicopter going over. Oops. It stopped raining, which means that the colours are really saturated, but I'm not going to get wet, he says, hoping he doesn't get wet. Just put this onto the front. Not sure I'm going to need full polarisation, but we'll see. The other thing a polarizer does, as I've probably mentioned before, is it gives a lovely saturation to the colours, but the colours are already beautifully saturated because of the rain, so I think this is going to look fantastic. Oh, that's a lovely tree as well. Maybe I've been struggling a little bit with woodland photography. I haven't done it for an awful long time, but what I've realised, I can't remember where I saw something on YouTube or read it somewhere, but somebody said that if you're struggling with your woodland photography, it might not be the fact that it's you, it may just be that the woodland's a bit rubbish. And what I've noticed is that some woodlands are just not photogenic and some woodlands are. This one actually is, because what you need is some characterful trees, some interesting scenes, and some local woodlands are just, if they're quite new, I guess, if they've not had a lot of polder in, or they haven't been managed, if they've been managed too much, I guess they don't look so good. Sometimes the pine forests are just literally in rows. That could look nice for certain pictures, but for these old kind of craggly trees that I'm after, you need to find a wood with some craggly trees in it, and I think that's the key. So the other key to it is to photograph it when it's looking good, so after the rain or in the rain is great, and the conditions are good today, so we haven't got a lot of bright light. That's good as well. Let's photograph this old tree and I'll talk you through the composition, and we'll see what we can get. So what we've got here is a square crop. I think a square is going to work really well. So I've got this lovely old silver birch on the left here, the main suburb, which is my gnarly tree with some branches coming up the top, and another silver birch to the right, just to hold the image. What's really good though, I don't know if we can see this, but there's a lovely light bit there, which is the canopy disappearing. So if I lower down Albert, I'm just going to take that anyway, because that looks kind of okay. I'm going to lower Albert down and try and get that bit framed underneath the arch of the tree. I think that will look really, really lovely. It's a really long exposure, as you can see, so there's going to be a little bit of movement. I'm on 100 ISO, so this bit here, look, I'm going to try and get that lower. I'm going to try and get lower so I'm shooting into it a little bit more. So maybe Albert's going to come down a section on the legs. That actually, though, looks really good. I might have to crank the ISO up because I'm getting a 10-second exposure, which is too, well, I don't know, is it too long? The leaves are moving and it is just a touch of breeze, so we'll see how we go. I might play around with that. So let's have a look and I'll show you when I've moved the camera. So I've come across this scene, and this is working really. Look at this lovely old oak tree. Is he? Oh no, he's a chestnut. Another old chestnut with this lovely curve. What an interesting curve, pointing this way at these two. And then in the background we've got a much lighter scene with some of the leaves are starting to go yellow. Ideally another week or so I'd like them to go even yellower, it'll be great. But this looks beautiful in the fact that it's been rained on. There's another old stump over here, so I'll have a little go with the camera and we'll see what we're getting. But this looks great. And again, as I said earlier, this is a really lovely woodland for photography. There's no point trying to photograph something that looks ugly. I mean, I wouldn't go and stand in the middle of a field and photograph a field. There has to be a subject matter, and the subject matter in this woodland seemed to be really good. I'm literally just off the path as well, and always I feel like, oh, that's a bit lazy, but actually again, it works. If it's a nice picture, let's get it shot. So let's do that now, and I'll show you what I'm doing. So I've moved to the right because I want to try and narrow the gap between the tree on the right with the interest and the two trees on the left. So the further right I go, the closer they're going to appear, just to leave me enough of the background upper canopy, middle canopy, just to give us some interest with the colour. It's very dark. Excuse me. This tree on the right is very dark, obviously, but with a polarizer, I've taken out all the reflection off the leaves on the back, so that kind of works okay. Now I'm probably at full polarization there. I want to get a little bit of light on the background because I want the eye to travel through, but I don't want it to be too distracting. Almost if this was a beach, I'd be using a grad, I think, but this is a 65-24 format, which we're going to shoot now. There's also, to the left of the two trees on the left here, a fallen down tree with a silver birch coming out of it, and I think that's quite interesting, just at the edge of the shot. Could even go further right. The problem with going further right is that there's a holly bush here which I'm going to get in. Can't really avoid that. I've also shot this as a 4x3, which I think will work. In fact, I think I prefer it now. Let's go with a 3x2 and have a little look at that format. I mean, don't forget though, with a raw file, I'll get everything anyway. It'll be a full frame, so I can have a little play around with this in post-processing. It's a little bit light, that's okay. That polarization works, but top left-hand corner, there's some light streaming through, which is kind of not helping. So if I tip the camera as high as it'll go, we may be able to look down on this scene, and that might actually work better. So let me play around with that. Okay, so we've come higher. I'm just going to flip the screen out so I can see it easier. That's going to take out some of the light that's just appearing in the top. You don't know if you can see it there, but that polarization just kills that a little bit. That works quite nicely. I'm on 400 ISO at 1.5 seconds. I think actually that's as far out as I know. I can zoom out a little bit more, so that works quite well. I'm just worried, well, not worried, I'm just make sure I'm watching the shadows on my histogram, because I don't want to lose any detail in that bark, because that is the main bit of interest. But actually that's working fine. I'm just going to change the delay to 10 seconds because it's right at the top of its reach. Albert can be a little bit wobbly, and 10 seconds I'll just let that all settle down. Now everything's pretty straightforward. There's a little bit of movement in these nearest leaves, so they are going to blow. I've had them almost perfectly still a little while ago. I also like that there's a branch, don't know whether you can see it, coming off the back of this second chestnut tree that goes off into the distance, and it's carrying some lovely oranges and yellows. That's really nice. I want to keep that still. So that looks like the woodland still is getting very still, not quite, pretty much. Right, that's going to give 10-second delay, and hopefully by the end of that 10 seconds everything will stop blowing. But the 10-second delay is to stop the camera wobbling, because it's right at the top of Albert's reach. It's not too bad. It did move a little bit, so maybe we'll shoot another one. I think I will crop some of the top of this. The difference between the colour at the bottom and at the top is a lot, but I can always put a grad on in post-processing. That will work. But equally, the light might be quite nice. It's coming through the background now, so that's very still. Perfect. I've only at the first location, so I'm going to move on now and see what else I can find. So I've been playing about with this scene. What's attracted me to this is this alder, which is tasty colour, and it's kind of standing out from the dark background quite nicely. Problem I've got is this: I'm doing this portrait, and I've got lots of sky in, which is Give me lots of flair really. So what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to blend these. So I'm going to shoot one straight. Okay, I'm going to keep, everything's on manual, so manual focusing. I'm shooting at 200 ISO now, 1.5 seconds at 5.6. So I've shot it straight. That's got with the sky. And what I'm now going to do is I'm going to put my hand over the sky, make sure I keep the tree clear. And that will allow me to blend the two exposures together so that I've got something that's going to be sharp, because the problem with flare, with light coming in the top, that it's going to make everything milky and not very saturated. So we'll try that. I've changed the timer now to 2 seconds because I'm not at the top of its range. I'm just going to have a look at another crop. Let's have a look at a square and see if it works better. It kind of does, you know. There's still a little bit of flare at the top, so I might just do the same thing. I could actually use the file that I've just shot, but let's just do that again. And this is another one of those scenes I'm not sure is going to work. I don't know yet. I'm going to reserve judgment. I mean, I'm going to darken probably. Okay, I'm going to darken down the sky certainly. And it might be one of those that I pull a luminosity mask, if I can say it, onto this and just lighten a touch the elder. Actually, it's not an elder. Which it is? No, I think it's an elder. You lighten just to touch the tree, the main subject tree, and just darken down the others. And also a vignette will help a little bit, just to make it stand out. But that's quite nice. It's the only tree around that's in colour, that's coloured up, so that's what's made me attracted to it. I'm getting this pine here, my word, he's tall. I'm getting this pine in because there's some nice greens on it, as you can probably see, and the bark is really rich. So right, I'm going to carry on now. I've realised actually so I'm going to carry on behind you. I've got one more scene definitely to photograph, and then we'll see how we're doing. But again, a lovely woodland is easier to photograph than a not lovely woodland. I mean, they're all lovely. What I mean is photographically. Okay, there's lots of subjects here because it's quite mixed here. The trees are all very mixed, but some of these little birches, little elder trees, or little rowan trees, they may even be actually it might even be rowan, you know. They're just plonks in the middle, and because they're colouring up, they actually look really lovely against the dark pines and things. So there's one behind me which looks nice. It's got berries on it, so I might shoot that now. And then we'll carry on. So I've got a really interesting scene in front of me. I'm shooting right into the light here, which is causing a few problems if I was shooting 4x3. In fact, it would almost be impossible. I'd have to blend it in, but even then the light's still too bright on the silver birches on the ground. But I'm shooting 65x24. With a 65-24 crop, you can see that flare along the top here, the top of the screen, look. I can actually put my hand over the top, see if I can just, oops, oh come on camera. So with a 65-24, see I've got flare at the top. It's not really flare, it's a bit of light coming in, but you can do that a lot with, if I turn the manual focusing off, those flashy zebras off, you can see that looks like that. Now I can also polarize it a bit. I think that's on full polarization at the moment. See that how this bit here now becomes too light. Let's darken that down a little bit, saturate it, and then the hand over the top just takes away a little bit of that flare. Sorry, that highlight. The histogram's looking great. There's detail there, but actually, so let me just first of all, let me just shoot that. And that looks okay, look. But actually, I want to talk about this kind of idea, because if you were to expose to the right, so if I go this way, see the histogram moving over to the right here. Now that makes that very bright, but actually, if I know that that is the edge of the histogram, the highlights, but even if I go one more stop, probably 2 clicks, it's clipping. But actually, what you have to remember is that this camera display is showing what the JPEG would look like. Hope you can see that all right. I just need to turn you down a little bit. Let's go darker so you can see it. That might be better. So the histogram is just clipping to the right now, but this is showing you what a JPEG would look like. Now I shoot in RAW. I'll just do that. And if you shoot in RAW, you get the chance to process it yourself, but that actually looks quite high key. So let me just do that again. So I've just put my hand in front of the lens, not in front of the lens, just over where the flare, where the light's coming in. Look, can you see what I'm doing? Okay, and I'm still getting a very high key effect. Now the main subject is this tree on the right here. This tree here is what I'm looking at, but actually there's a fallen tree in the background. I'm shooting at f8, so I'm going to get that slightly in focus as well. But high key is a style that I really like. And let me show you some drone footage I shot the other day. So I was flying the drone, just trying to get some pieces to camera, and came across this little scene with this lovely, delicate silver birch which had bent over. And as you can see behind, there's a clearing. And the clearing means that there's lots of light there. So what I did with this was I got the GFX out and I exposed to the right, which means the histogram goes fully loaded to the right and then a little bit more, so it was very high key, and that is how I've processed it. I shot a square, I shot a 65-24, and hopefully looking at this shot you'll agree that looks, with the right subject, with those light greens, delicate branches, that looks beautiful. Kind of might work on this as well, it may do. Not so sure. I've shot both, and I also want to shoot one with a slightly larger aperture because I want to, or a smaller aperture because I want to get this fallen silver birch in as well. So let's just crank the exposure back the other way. Now I've still got shadows. There's loads of detail there, so the shadows are going to be fine because that bit there is in shadow. What I'm going to do though is I am going to focus on it, because I think that's important. I'm going to do that manually just so I can see exactly what I'm doing. So there we go, and he's now dead in focus. That's okay. So you can see that there's still some highlights there, but actually I think that exposure is pretty good really. Certainly doesn't work. I mean, I could actually adjust how much highlights are in it by just doing that with my hand, really. And this is the same as when I used to work in a dark room. You'd literally look at the print and just be doing this to it, just to get it to be the right tones. But that looks perfect. Let's just do one more while I'm here. Just taking anything that's going to degrade the image out. And I really like that. Great stuff. There's one more behind me, and then we might call it a day. Don't know what's happening with me today, but I'm seeing pictures everywhere. I love this silver birch with some bits from saplings growing up, and then in the distance that light patch over there, so you can see to the right with some dead bits. I just think that's gonna look lovely, like a tunnel. It just looks amazing. Loads of aircraft up the top practicing. This is what an amazing woodland this is. I'm really enjoying all of this. So I'm going to grab the camera and shoot this, I think. I've so many images today, it's amazing. Oh, I don't fall down a hole. I'll go and grab the big camera. So I've had the most amazing day today. Woodland has started to become one of my very favourite genres. Loving it in here. Things that have helped. Autumn has helped. Leaves are starting to turn. I think we've called it correctly today. We're just in the right kind of conditions between live green and yellow and all of that stuff, so that's been really good. I think the rain has helped, made everything saturated, made it rich, made it vibrant. I think I'm learning to take my time now, not rushing, because there's no deadline with sunrise arriving. Woodlands is much more relaxed, I've learned, and that's great. It's really been fantastic for my mental health, and I'm sure it would be great for yours if you decide to come out and just do it. But also, this place is a beautiful place, and I think I've been struggling in local woodland, which really isn't very photogenic. It's young, there aren't any gnarly trees, but here it's just such a great mix of woodland, so many interesting subjects. It's been fantastic, so definitely going to come here again, maybe even next week. We'll see how we go. I'm really busy in November actually, which is the month I'm coming into. We'll see how we get on, but thanks ever so much for tuning in as ever. If you can subscribe, if you haven't already, that would be great. Tell your friends and like the video, remember, all helps the channel. So until next time, thanks ever so much for tuning in. Take care of yourselves. Go and get out on some woodlands. Enjoy.